Kia ora tātai. See, this is the dilemma we have today. We have the Whakaki Lake Trust over in the Te Horo, and we have the Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Trust hui here today. And some of our people are standing in the middle, torn between which way to go. Kai te pai. Kai te pai. Kia timata hei tuku whakamoeniti ki o tātou nei kai hau. Muhe tia tātou I tēnei Karakia, te Karakia o te atua. Ka koutou hia. Kia taitahi whakamininga mai. Kia ora. E tō mātou matu I tera. Kia tapu tō ingoa. Kia tai mai tō rangatiratanga. Kia me te atau e pai ai ki runga ki te whenua. Kia rite anō ki tō teranga. O mai kia mātou aia nei he taro mo mātou mō tēnei rā. Muru a mātou hara. Me mātou hoki e muru nei te hunga e harana kia mātou. O hoki mātou e ka wea ke whakawaia. Engari whakaorangi a mātou I te kino. No hoki te rangatiratanga. Te kaha me te kororia. Ake. Amene. A tēnei te mihi kia tata. E taitahi nei rei ki rungi tēnei te karanga. Me ki rā tēnei o tō tātou tārachi. Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Trust. Tēnei te mihi ki o koutou katoa. E tai whakapapa mai. E tai whinunga mai. E tai kairunga ki tēnei te karamotara. I no reira tēnā ko. I tūtahi rā ko tāku e huri nei ki tēnei e noho taumata nei kei waiuri a tātou. Tēnei te mihi ki a koe rā anti. Nā unei he taumata anō tāu. He taumata kuia karaua. Ka tika kāmi. I te wā o ngā piki o ngā heke te haeretanga o tātou. Ka huri kanohi mai rā ki o koutou. He o koutou anō he te taumata no reira tēnei te mihi. Tai rā kia tata. Ka tika kia mihi ki rā atu o ngā mate. Ngā taumahatanga kai rungi o tātou nei pokohiwi. Kai tēnā rohe e noho ana. Kai tēnei rohe e noho ana. Kai tēnā marae, kai tēnā marae. Puta noa I tō tātou nei rohe. Tēnei te mihi. Hauria mai, mauria mai e rā ngā mate kai rungi o koutou. Ka tika kia whāriki hia kia mihi kia tangi. Pēnei a tātou, mai rāno o tēnei tua āhuatanga. Kia mihi tō tātou nei mate I te tuataka. Ka horoia nei, kia pūria nei e rā ngā mate, ngā taumahatanga, tēnā ngā tapu kai rungi a tātou. Nō reira tēnei te mihi, koutou rā ngā mate. Pēnei anko pāora, rātou katoa. Anei rā tata ngā mahuetanga o rātou. Nō reira e tai kanohi mai tēnei te mihi. Whāriki hea, kā mihi, kātanga. Haere atu rā ki te wāhi tuturu mātāu o te tangata. Haere kei tua o te pai o maumahara. Waihoi e tātou nei ngā pungarehua koutou. Kia pupuri, kia mau, kia whakaki ko kei hia ngā tumanako, ngā moimoia e waiho tia rā ia koutou. Nō reira hoki mai rā ki te kaupapa. Anei rā tēnei puari o Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Trust. I whakamanahia kai runga I te rā tau. Kai runga I te whakaitanga, te whakamana o tēnā trustee o tātou o te wairo. Ko tā koe mihi ki tēnā o ngā rangi e hui tahi nei rā tātou. Kia whakae, kia whakamana, pēnei te hui tuatahi mai I tēnā wā. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, kāre tōro. Tēnā tātou koutou. Ka noho ke tuku atu ki te tiamana. Nāna hei kai whakahaere mo tō tātou nei hui te rangi nei. Kia ora hui mai tātou.
Kia ora, Eri. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Thank you for coming today. Yes, unfortunately, we've got another hui. The other whānau, the other whare. But kei te pai, we carry on, we move on, because we've got a lot of mahi to get through. I just want to let you know that we're videoing this for whānau that can't make it, overseas people, around the motu, videoing this hui today so that it can be put onto our Facebook pages and eventually our websites when we get it up and running. So without further ado, we're going to have the agenda up on the screen and the minutes as well. We had to do a lot of photocopying and kind of like saving our trees, so we thought we'd run the minutes up on the screen today. So aroha mai if you fellas feel that you can't see the minutes or something, but I'll read them out. But yeah, Bob will show you fellas the minutes. So this our last Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Kāhui was Saturday the 17th of November 2018 at 10 a.m. at Iwitea Marae. The time that opened was 9 minutes past 10. So present as per the Kāhui Register, Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Te Kumuti Tautoko. Nigel Howe, the Interim Secretary Treasurer, Bob Solomon, Whakaki Representative, William Blake, QSM, Kaumata Rep, Pieri Munro, Tātou Trustee, Angie Smith, Richard Brooking, Richie Blake, Rahira Biddle, Rangimari Whanga, Jessie Smith Christine, Nina Buxton, Tuirina Wehi, Josephine Palmer, Annette Hakiwai, Doris Nicholson and Trevor Waikawa. Aroha mai. I'll just go back one. The apologies. We've received a list of apologies here. Do you want to read them out?
So the apologies that we received
today.
Morena whānau. For the whānau for today is James Solomon, Leslie Smith, Olive Weir, Millie Bryan, Ka Rupiha, Glenys Kahukura, Ruarama Hook Whānau Trust, Mohiti Smith, Kapai, check, Kahu Walker, Marama Kahukura, Hori Kahukura, Elizabeth and Whānau, Agnes Chapman, Nigel Howe, Peter Robinson, Josephine Palmer, Kahu Palmer, Pat Robinson, Doris Nicholson, Jessie Smith, William Blake. Is there anyone else with their apologies? Ranahira Morrison.
Any other apologies, Whānau? Kia ora. Thank you. I'll just move on with the minutes. Sorry. So can I have a mover, please, of apologies?
Kapai.
Thank you, Annette. Seconder, please. Bob. Thank you.
Thanks.
Kapai. So the agenda for that hui on November 17th, so the opening prayer was done by William Blake QSM. Due to our chairman attending the roadshow, so when this hui happened, Naomi and I were on the roadshow around with Tātou. And Pieri offered to chair the position out to those present who agreed for Pieri to chair this hui. Pieri accepted and continued with a mihi. It was noted that this hui was being filmed for viewing by our wider Kāhui, which received no objections. The other numerous hui in our rohe, including those at Te Rauhina Marae and Whakaki Marae, were acknowledged. So the apologies for that day were myself, as the chairman and Iwitea representative, on Tātou o Te Wairoa Roadshow, Heta Koko, Tātou o Te Wairoa Trust Trustee, on the Tātou o Te Wairoa Trust Roadshow, Mana Tomlins, Peter Walker Robinson and Parekura Robinson. Parekura, please. Motion 1, that the apologies be received. Move Pieri. Bob carried. Number 3, corrections, discussion and confirmation of minutes for the 14th of the 10th, 2018. Copies of the minutes were circulated before the meeting commenced for everyone to read, and the interim secretary read them aloud. Bob spoke to the current committee tautoko roles, where Naomi had volunteered to be secretary and Bob had volunteered to be the treasurer. Nominations were called for with no offers. Both were appointed unanimously. Brief discussion led to motion 2, that Nigel William Howe be removed as a signatory to the Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua bank account and replaced with Robert William Morris Solomon. Moved Pieri, second Richard, carried. Corrections were out loud, not allowed, in point 3, a missing K in 5A, 3 Kāhui, not 4, in point 5D. The minute book was noted accordingly. Motion 3, that the minutes of 14 October 2018 with corrections be accepted. Moved Jessie, second William, carried. 4, the financial report. Copies of the financial report were circulated before the meeting commenced for everyone to read and then read aloud by the Interim Treasurer with explanations given throughout. Angie reiterated the acknowledgement for Walter in managing our finances so well. The balance as at the 1st of November 2018 was $12,855.85. Motion 4, that the financial report for the period 12th of October 2018 to the 1st of November 2018 be accepted. Moved William, second Richard, carried. Number 5, general business. Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Trust, recap of discussions held at our last hui. Pierre went through a recap of the process to date and milestones achieved. Angie raised the question about Nai Tarita inclusion, which Bob explained its shift to the Ngā Motu Hapu list. The floor was then handed to Bob, who presented the rest of segment with the use of overhead projection. The next point was the review of changes made to proposed Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Trust deed. The name is Te Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Trust. The hapu list were elaborated on. Our trustee election process was explained. The trustee accountability clause was discussed. Everyone present was happy with our trust deed execution version and the changes made. The next point, review recommended trust structure. An excellent presentation and discussion ensued about various structures, including tax efficiency and tax reduction, asset protection, combination trust, standard and charitable, flexibility of trust. Discussion led to motion 5, that WNAR establish a charitable trust to work in conjunction with our discretionary trust. Move Pierre, second Richard, carried. Richard offered to assist with the charitable trust establishment. Next point was to ratify the Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Trust deed. As everyone was happy with our trust deed execution version, Pierre signed it with $10 on the table, with Nigel as witness. The $10 was he tohu aroha, gifted by Bob for the purpose. Nigel will liaise with Heta to sign the deed, which, when done, will enact our deed. Discussion about where to house the original resulted in motion 6, that the original signed execution version of the completed deed of Te Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Trust will be stored on deposit in the vault of the Wairoa Museum, Kopu Tūtanga Taonga o Te Wairoa, 142 Marine Parade, Wairoa. And that the interim secretary will inform Leon Symes of Tātou Tātou o Te Wairoa Trust and Briar Pete of Chapman Trip as to the location of the original signed deed, as well as providing them with a PDF copy of the original signed deed and $10 note. Move PD, Richard, carried. The next point, review of next steps. The achievements and quality of output of our working group over the past few months were acknowledged. It was agreed that they, along with input from Richard and others, were the right mix to continue working on our trust establishment and bring that back to future Kāhui for discussion. It was also noted by Pierre and Angie that they should be appropriately resourced, which led to discussion about a possible capability funding application to Tātou Tātou o Te Wairoa Trust, post-ratification and December trustee elections. Other notable mentions in the hui included the current voting around the closing date of 26th of November, the deposit of 99.57 million in the Tātou Tātou o Te Wairoa Trust bank account earlier in the week, TTOTWT AGM 15th of December, Whakakī celebration the 8th of December, our youth, Tuirina and Trevor in attendance today, the current teachers' negotiations and strikes. B, other general business. There was no other general business for discussion, which took us to 6, the closing prayer, PD after congratulatory and warm closing remarks. The time of that hui ended 11:35 a.m. Present, the same Les William Blake QSM, who departed at 10:45 a.m. Kia ora. That's the end of that. So, is there any corrections, discussions and confirmations of those minutes? Do you want to go through them?
I think just attendance. my name wasn't noted, even though the interim secretary is taking my place. So I'll just add
True.
that in there.
Alright, so that's an amendment to add your name into the apology list. Yep. Do we want to go through it, whānau? Who's got anything to...
I'd move that the minutes be accepted.
Do we have a seconder?
One that was there. Was it-
Annette?
was it
Annette, second. Were you here, Annette?
Yes.
Yeah.
You were, a couple. Did you? Aye, Rita.
I'm
Oh,
wondering how
oh.
you got what? No, I don't. Second. So, all in favour?
Yeah?
Matters arising.
Okay. Move on.
Matters arising.
Any matters arising out of these minutes?
Um,
Just through the chair, there's probably going to be a recap on the agenda for today across quite a bit of
God,
that.
all of the same, yeah.
Especially the ones next steps.
so moved by Penny, second by Annette. All in favour?
No.
Carried.
Kāhui. So, we'll go on to our financial report.
Got it, that's me.
Very organic.
Yes, my apologies, I can just put up, I haven't done a reconciliation since the 1st of November. I'm just having difficulty getting hold of one of the statements that I need. That said, I just sort of put out there what our spend was over that November-December period, because there was quite a bit. There's up there are some costs related to the road show that two of our group went on, and then also for costs around the various huli, especially the one that we're running on the 17th of November. You'll see up there that there's two actual catering costs for that 17th of November hui. There was a bit of a mix-up on our part where we actually had two sets of caterers. So we had quite a bit of leftover food from that hui. What we did with it was that we took them around both Iwitia and Whakaki around our village and distributed that food out. But yeah, Naomi and myself, who did lots of hours on the project, we got our final payment out, having delivered our final report there. And I'll wait for the statement to verify what was that check. So there was a from out of our Kāhui collective, so that's where three of our Kāhui got together and decided to do things together, of which included the road show. So there was a whole lot of costs, some of which we actually bankrolled for a while, Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua for the three Kāhui involved. But we reconciled at the end of the day, and basically on our part to reconcile, we had to make a payment out to Tapakura 2. And I don't quite know what that amount is because I haven't got the statement. But yeah, and then I've just put today's one on there in terms of our catering. So we do stand there with a closing balance, I do know that, of $6,000. That was from our, if you like, our old setup. And or Perry's going to speak to around what we're going to do with this account now that we're in our new setup.
Transition.
Any other questions? Any questions on the financials?
I just want to add too that our report for that in regards to our mahi was sent across the tātou, and we do have it if you want it, Bob, in regards to a report for our whānau.
Yeah, sure, in terms of the work that we do.
In terms of the work, and it will reflect pretty much the detailed stuff in regards to the mahi that was done and pulled out.
Yeah.
I understand it was very well received too by tātou, but the guys can talk to that our trustees.
Yeah. And just on that note, I mean, part of what we're planning for the future is to establish a Kāhui website. So that will be the opportunity for us to put up all of those reports and stuff that, you know, you guys are most welcome to see. Putting them up on Facebook doesn't quite work for us at the moment.
It's for transparency reasons.
Okay. That's
Yep.
it. I'll hand it back to you.
Whakakapi trustees were quite impressed with the report. Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua leads the way again.
So can I, any questions about the financial report? No? So can we have a mover, please? Oh, Bob, you
Yes.
move those? Or someone?
I'll move it.
Okay.
Yep.
Pierre moves the report and Rita second it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I guess what
So
we're
can-
moving here as a financial report
Yes.
is in the absence of the statement of reconciliation.
Yes, so that will be done next month. I was just
Yep.
about to raise that. I do need to present
Cover.
a good set of financials.
Yes. Great. Is Whānau all right with that statement? Kia ora. Thank you. Okay. So is there anyone, everyone for that? Anyone against? No? Carried. Thank you. So we're going on to the trustee report now. Peter, from Hita and
We're going
Pierre.
to go through the recap first, then.
Yeah, sorry. We didn't add that into the agenda. But yeah, Peter's just going to start us off with a recap. We thought that might be useful.
I think one of the objectives of today's hui was to provide as much information that whānau were wanting. And I think in amongst this there may well be questions. I'm just wondering if I go through the presentation here, it may answer some questions or it may reveal others. And if you just sort of keep those in mind, then we'll go to a question time at the end.
Can I suggest we just leave questions to the end so we can listen to the
Yeah.
presentation, please?
Kapai.
Cover. So we've gone back to 2016. November 2016 was when the deed of settlement was signed at Whakakī, and also when myself and Heta as initial trustees became part of Tātou Tātou, which composed 14 trustees, 2 from each of the clusters or Kāhui. That was back in 2016. In 2017 we had our first engagement hui, and this was the 2 major tasks of the trustees in that phase was about reviewing the structure of the PSG, the post-settlement governance entity, Tātou Tātou o Te Wairau, and then the second one was about reviewing the ownership, the asset ownership arrangements. Those were the 2 major ones, and so the first engagement hui here was about taking different models out to the people. So there were 9 hui right across the country to do this, and to say, here are, at that time it was, here are 3 models that you might want to consider in terms of a structure for us moving forward. And within that there was also asset ownership. This is the settlement that we finally received last year. It was, what might the arrangements around that look like? And so that was the first engagement hui. We got a lot of feedback from that hui, came back to the desk and went back through and melded that feedback into the second engagement. And roadshow hui, again across the country, 9 hui, and put 2 models back up for people to consider. We got more feedback from that, and we actually went through a second phase of engagements as well, which was the one last year leading up to the ratification. Second reading of our settlement in Parliament, there were a few buses. Wairau was sort of moved down to Wellington, took over Wellington City for the day. Big celebration and a lot of roimata, particularly from ngā kuia ngā karau. This process has been a journey for 30-something years, and a lot of our kuia karaua ka tai a wairua, and were represented by their whānau on the day. It was a big event for us. real watershed milestone event for tātou te Wairoa, but for Kāhui ki te Wairoa pai atu ki Aroha Waiwaihine. July last year we had a postal vote for all registered members to ratify the trustee changes, and that SGM here, this one here, was because OTS and the Crown at the time said that you need to make particular changes at that point. We tried to say, look, why don't we just do it at the end of last year rather than pay for 2 lots of trustee changes. And they says, well, we won't recommend that you go to the minister if you don't do the trustee changes. So we were in the corner on that, and so we had to run that. But what happened was we went back to OTS right at the end, and we sort of said that wasn't a fair process. It cost us up around 40,000 to actually run that trustee change SGM. And so I guess because we bleated enough, they came back and refunded all of those costs. And September we had the 3rd reading of settlement in Parliament, and big event. And November we had the postal vote for all registered members to ratify, and we achieved 91.27 support of those who voted, which was that's a significant endorsement and support for the trustee. So that was for the Tātou trustee, and that's what gives a platform or a foundation for our own Kāhui trustee, Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Trust. Coming up this year in March, well, it's not April, it is by the end of March, so it's 4 months after the amendment date, which is 30 November. 4 months after that, then all of us, and this committee here is operating on your behalf, is required to run a new trustee election. But we'll get into what that looks like later on. Good. Oh, can I just put that? Yep, no, that's okay. Yep. These are the Kāhui that compose Tātou Te Wairoa. Some of you would have formerly known Te Whakakī-Nui-A-Rua. That was Wairoa Waikare Moana Māori Trust Board, and they've taken up a new entity and named Te Whakakī-Nui-A-Rua. Ngā tokorima hinu manuhiri, Te Wairoa tāpuko rau whānui. So what's Te Wairoa tāpuko rau?
Well, it's just got that in the deed, just plus the Tupukura 1 in the deed.
Ngāti rā kai pāka Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua e nogo mai wai. So what is a trust? In this case here, we're an entity, and this can be both at the Tātou level but also at the Kāhui level, a trust that owns and manages an asset on behalf of the trust's beneficiaries. I think an important point, it's in the next slide, it's about a unit trust, mate?
Yeah.
This is what we are all beneficiaries of. Crown settlement was 100 million, that's the financial redress, but there's also cultural and there's relationship agreements, there's property redress, that is all part of the settlement package that we received in November last year. We still have 14 trustees, but under the new model, which we'll look at shortly, that will come down to a corporate trustee of only 7. And we have in excess of 7,000 registered members on the Tātou database. And of those who are over the age of 18 years, we have 4,900. Yeah, so I guess that's a high-level view of what it looks like. Our 7 Kāhui, we're one of those. We each have a 1/7 share in Tātou. So if you do the figures in your head, of the 100 million financial principle, our trust holds on your behalf 1/7 share equity in that. So it's something that we're able to put on our books and say we have a shared interest 1/7 of 100 million, and that will be managed by the commercial arm tātou tātou. That's the model that is still being built and put in process. The corporate trustee, once the tātou elections are held, our own included, then they'll compose the corporate trustee, one from each of our kāhui, and then we'll have the trust in place. The tax models that we've implied in this, we received advice from Deloitte, and so we're currently, our tax implication is 17.5% on revenue, not on the principal. We haven't yet set up a charitable arm, that's in process. The commercial arm, this part down here, that's in process at the moment, being managed by tātou level, and that will be the appointment of directors. 5 directors, one of which must come from Haukainga, from inside our claimant area. We, as part of our settlement, we received a 50% share in Patunamu Forest. Our 2 directors on Patunamu are Richard Brooking and Brian McKinley.
Is it all the con?
No, Julian's
over here.
Funny.
Okay.
Yeah,
Brian
and
McKinley, yeah.
we went through a selection appointment process, put out for expressions of interest, got a lot of applications to become directors on both of those forests. And at the end of it, the ones that we selected, and part of that was looking for technical ability, corporate ability, legal, financial, and to also look at a succession process. So for Patunamu, Richard was appointed on merit of the process, but he's previously been a chair of Whareata Forest, so we thought there's corporate ability there. We needed some forestry technical expertise, and that's Brian McKinley, runs his own company. And but we thought Brian's actually quite young as well, so that was our succession process in terms of those 2 appointments. Whareata Forest is Shane Walker, no te kāinga nei, and he's alongside Julian Conn. So Shane, because he's young and still coming through, and can be guided. Julian Conn, because he's got Conn Control Industries, he's got his own business, he's well set up, and we're going to learn a lot from him. And those will be our 2 that sit along the 2 Ngai Tā Manuhiri. And those ones are Tina Parau and Martini Blanford. So that's for Whareata. On here, because Ngāti Ruapani have not yet settled, then there are 2 Crown representatives who sit alongside Richard and Brian. And so that's a set-up one. Whareata Forest has been up and running for about 12 years.
Arua mai, it's Robin Rauna that's on that board.
Has it changed?
Oh, is it, when did
Well,
that change?
she's CE at
CE, yeah. That's right.
And part of our settlement also, there's the cash, which we talked about. There are 24 properties, they're called DSPs, or Deferred Selection Properties. And those ones will come up between 6 months from settlement and through to 2 years. And so we've already gone through a process. Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Trust participated in that. And that was to look at whether or not we have owner interest, which means we go back through our whakapapa, through our tikuna, to see if we had any particular interest or residency in any of those properties. Some of them are residential properties, some of them are schools. There's quite a mix, but there's 24 of them, and those came back as part of our settlement. We have to purchase them, and that'll be at a market rate. The RFR stands for Rights of First Refusal. For the next 174 years, any property that Crown deems to be surplus that's put up into the land bank, then we have first rights of refusal inside our claimant area. So there'll be people, there'll be uri, there'll be mokopuna well beyond us who will be making decisions about land that comes up as surplus to that. So we're here for the long haul. Yeah, that's probably that. What's our next one, Chris? So when we look across, there's a lot of kōrero and history. Some more versed in it than I am. But during the time of the Tira Whakaemi, before Tātou, During that time we had quite a number of our, Liz was there, Uncle Blighty was there, Pitta was there,
Nigel.
and they were the ones that led us through that negotiation phase with the Crown to arrive at a deed of settlement. But when we look back as to why should we be together as a Kāhui and as a cluster, and my understanding, and Heta's got a better kōrero about this than me, was that at one particular point we were all joined. Hei he repu katoa. Mai e te putanga o te awa, tai hoki rā ki Opoho. That it used to be all wetlands all through here. So at one point before the residency of our marae, we were all joined mai I te wai. And so there's that sort of whakapapa that sort of sits in behind why we work so well together. So that happened, I think our Kāhui, Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua came together during Te Tira Whakaemi's time. They're still together today, and it's working really, really well on our behalf. Whether you look across whakapapa, mai I te tagata, whether you look across whakapapa, mai I runga I te whenua, or whether you look across he wai ke whakahono mai rei a tata. Other things that are in common, some of these I've already talked about. These are some of the aspirations I think that we're looking at, things that and there'll be others that come up. In terms of our people, marae management and development, educational pursuit, mātauranga, education and training, health and aged care, me here manaki ai tō tātou nei kuia karaua, housing and social development, in terms of focusing on the whenua ahead, research, sustainability and best use of that, collective land management and development, farming and other commercial opportunities, housing, horticulture. I guess something that we'll need to all think about later on in the structure and how we set ourselves up is how do we receive great ideas that come from all corners, and how do we sort of assess those in terms of being something that we might want to focus on for the future. In the way, in this area here, things that we could be focused on is around water quality and supply, working in conjunction perhaps with our councils or with other Kāhui or other hapu and iwi. Wetlands restoration, well, there's a big project going on about it at the moment. Catchment management, what that means is that when we look at our lake, our lake is so reliant upon everyone else over whom we have no control. So the catchment, the tributaries, ngā mātapuna, that all contribute towards our lake, that either brings good or bad with it, that's part of working with the wider catchment. Ki hoki mai te mauri o te wai. Education, science, tourism opportunities. There is so much ahead of us that we need to be geared for, that we need to finding more employment for people. I konei ki te wai. Lots and lots of ideas we need. Kia ora, cousin. Oh, well, here we go. Thoughts on our aspiration. To regain mana motu hake over our takino. Kia tai hei tino raga tiratanga, kai rongi ngā āhuatanga katoa o konei. And we will collectively and sustainably work our land and restore our waterways to support our communities me ngā uri whakaheke. Our marae remain focal points in our communities, able to provide a variety of services to all, places also to manaaki our manuhiri to wāranga and to grow our future generations. These are all the exciting things that lie ahead of us. So what do we need? Well, we need people for starters. And we need people, we need resources, or we need to know where to go and get those resources. Organisation, we're going to need structure. We're going to need tikanga, policies, procedures in place. a lot of clarity about that. We will need to look ahead. E tirohanga whakamua. At a Kāhui level, at a community level, at a marae level. And we're going to need plans. And we'll need projects. And we'll need some fingers and toes and he tangata. Ki o tia ye nei ngā momuia ngā tumana ko tata. Oh, well, should we?
Any questions?
Are there any questions on the slide, on any of the slides? Kia ora, Kasi.
I'm just looking at your slide one that says what we have in common. One thing that I think is missing from that is timatanga. There's nothing about the ocean whatsoever. And I think in the future that's going to be one of the most, I know Whakakī-Nui-A-Rua has claimed right through to Rua in, but I think we should start looking at it as part of our area. Many of the claim groups, including Kāhui, have actually put in timatanga, or claims after the claims have been settled, and we've got nothing to say our ownership of the beach, the sea, and what's in it. And I think that's missing on that slide.
That one that's got it.
There's nothing. I know it says wide, and that Whakakī-Nui-A-Rua beach, but you know, there's nothing that's really concrete about what
it
we
is.
will do about it, what it means to us. Because as we know, it's vitally important now more than ever.
Kia ora.
Good. Just to comment on that, Kaz. So when we put our, we did it pretty much on a coastal basis. So Ngā put theirs in, Iwiche put theirs in, and we put ours, and Whakaki put ours in. So we know what our traditional boundaries are, and that's what we stuck to. But next minute, you know, there's all these other claimant
That's
groups
gone over
that
us.
have come over the top of us. So yeah, but you're right, we do need to work together as one on protecting that bit of coast.
Protection.
Just to add to what Bob's saying, I'm actually the applicant for Ngā on behalf of our hapu, and there's a lot of overlapping claims or applications. Now I went to the High Court last year. I represented ourselves as Ngā with no lawyer at the moment, but I presented our evidence, all our research. The judge has got it at the moment. And what happened at that was that the lawyers asked for an extension because they haven't done their homework. Me and my daughter, when we were the only ones that had in our claim and our research and all that. So the judge extended for another 2 years. And our next court hearing is in July this year.
It definitely is a long-term thing because our application hasn't even been put up there for public viewing, and I've gone back to them twice saying, hey, you know, we submitted our application, why isn't it up there? And they basically responded saying, you know, we've got a vast quantity of applications that we have to go through and put them
So
up.
from a marae aspect, we've gone to each board and they've seen where our boundaries are. So the movement has come off the marae table, each marae table.
It is 202 High Court applications.
And that's High Court, let alone the ones that have been, most people would have put theirs straight to the government to do rather than go down the High
I
Court.
think Crown Engagement is about 400 applications,
We're on the table.
But we did both with the Crown and High Court.
But I think your point is quite correct, that in terms of things that bind us together, kia here raya tata, takutai mora is definitely one of those. Any other questions about the slides thus far?
Are you me again?
Kāhui.
I know it's early days yet, but I really like your point about the marae as a focal point. And I'm just wondering, is that just a point at the moment? Is there going to be discussion? I like that idea that, because I think marae, we've seen that in Auckland, how the marae has become more important than they used to be. They're not just the culture thing. And I like that idea as a focal point. I mean, more than just what we do with it now, but what we can do with it. You know, is it going to be a business hub for our Kāhui, you know, all that stuff. That's what I'm just wondering if that's kind of...
Or,
Yeah.
I think the world is our oyster in terms of
Vision,
Yes,
hidden a vision.
it is.
but it is, and I think once the Marae enable the discussion, we're happy to convene it, but it needs to come from
From the
the
Marae.
Kāhui.
From the people.
And I think once that comes up and we can start to sort of get a clear idea about what that might look like, then the role of Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Trust is then to come in behind and say, okay, well, what are the mechanics and the processes that
Be able to
bring
do
that
that.
to life?
So that's kind of a Marae Kāhui discussion for the future. Yeah.
Yeah, but an important one at that.
Yeah.
Kia ora, Baba.
Kia ora, kia ora, whānau. I'm looking around here pretty and I'm seeing a lot of people that have not come to the meetings before. So you did say we had three Kāhui, three Marae entities in our Kāhui, but we only have 2 trustees. So can you explain to the ones that are here why this has happened? You know, we've got Te Rauhina, we've got Iwiti, we've got Whakaki, we've only got Piri, and...
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, just to clarify it so that
It's
we
not our
no
preference.
one gets confused about it.
Pai tēnā whātai. So in the time of Te Tira Whakaini, and then the process that was agreed with the OTS and the Crown at the time, this is pre 26th of November 2016. And so what was decided then is that in terms of Tātou becoming an entity, then there would be 2 trustees from each of the 7 clusters, irrespective of how many marae were in their particular takiwa. And so if we go down to Rākai Pāka, more than 3 down there,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, what was agreed was that there would only be 2 from each of the cluster, regardless of the marae that you had. Created a very vibrant discussion in each of those kāhui. And so that was the reason for that. Under the new model, you know, we only had Tātou, but now under the new model, we've got this corporate trustee, Tātou, but we also have enabled 7 kāhui. And our trust deed, which we'll probably look at shortly, but very quickly, says that we can have a rep from each of our marae that composes the trust that we have here, and we will be able to elect 1 Tātou rep that goes up to become part of the corporate trust. Pai tēnā whātai e, Baba.
Yeah. Summary of that is that we weren't able to make up the rules until we become an independent entity.
Yeah. And the Crown's out of the picture now.
Yeah.
So can I ask you a question? Kia ora tāmai.
Kia ora.
Marlene Smith. My mother is a sister to the late Albert Walker, Bruce, and my grandfather was Tui Walker. Mātua is my great-grandfather. So, kia ora. I just wanted to know what governs all the corporates on the principles of ethical and legal rights and part of the beneficiaries that we have our jurisdiction to rights that we value. Because how I see it, when our local Kāhui have the trust of the beneficiaries, and obviously you're acting on the interests of the trust and the values. And I'd like to speak a little bit about that because our ethical rights and our, on the Human Rights Commission as well as the Indigenous rights globally and nationally reflect the value of the beneficiaries and our interest and your interest and me and everyone else here in Kāhui. So how I see it, values are very important that reflect the jurisdiction and accountability. And that's very, very important. And maybe at this stage, I'd like to when you go on to the Constitution to recommend an amendment that reflect the beneficiaries' rights that you act on those parts. But I would like to suggest too, the governance is very important that puts your mandate and our trust in your hands. Very, very important because And then our mandate, just to help you remind you of your jurisdiction, your responsibility to us, is that we have the mandate of all the acts. There's the Disability Act, we have the Ethical Rights and Commission of the Human Rights Commission. We understand that. And it's a very, I don't know if you know this, people, but it's a very, very important issue with the national, international Indigenous rights and the United Nations, that the affairs and decisions that are made on the local body, like we are here, that they're accountable right through the lines, right back to the Treaty of Waitangi, because it actually addresses our disparities of poverty, education, training, and all the vital necessities that make you and I part of our collaboration together, and partnership. And we all know about the partnership protection. So I see this as a collaborative take that we take up there, and the mandate that beneficiaries have is to act on those standards, but they protect us, and it's also protection against the commercial law. Now God's law is to protect us, and that's why we have the United Nations and the Indigenous rights. Right, go back to the Treaty of Waitangi that protect us, that mandate. That is our governance. So I'd just like to support the corporate governance that keeps our trust with you, and it's how you mandate that jurisdiction and processes that keeps your values in line with our thought. So thank you, kia ora. But I'll bring that up with the Constitution.
Kia ora.
Thanks, Ilda.
Shall we move on?
Yes.
Kāhui. So, Peter and I, as your representatives at Tātou Tātou, we just wanted to sort of just quickly give you, not unless you want it, it's just really a skip over the top of some of the business and the discussion that happened at our first meeting of 2019 on the 19th of January. There was a lot of discussion, so talking constitutions and trustees, there was a lot of discussion about the distribution. So within the Tātou Tātou trustee, clause 15.1, it talks about in the first 3 years, before 3 months after the amendment date, which was 30 November last year, Tātou Tātou is required to make a first distribution to the Kāhui of $2,466,333. $2,466,333. Split 7 ways, which comes down to approximately $352,000 per Kāhui. Unless Kāhui write back to Tātou Tātou and say, we will take this, we will take all, we will take some, or we will take none. And if we take some, then we want the rest invested in for a greater entity share of the held at Tātou Tātou. So that was some of the discussion that was happening back at that time.
So can I just say something? So the downside of that staying with Tātou, do you want to go into that? There's no interest
Yeah.
if we keep it
Oh,
at
we don't
Tātou?
get the interest on our money. Oh.
No, I'm just going to get him to explain if we don't elect to...
So the first distribution, whatever the amount, has no tax implied on it because it's part of the settlement, which has no tax. Once you start accumulating revenue, which includes interest, then it becomes taxable. And so what happens is if you don't take all your money in the first distribution as a Kāhui, then it sort of sits there. And it can sit there for 6 months until you make a decision at a Kāhui level. But there is no interest attached to it because then it becomes revenue.
Does Tātou Tātou get interest?
Tātou Tātou is at the moment on the principle that's in there. Very low.
So the Kāhui doesn't get interest, but Tātou Tātou does?
Yes.
Okay.
But then it becomes revenue.
taxable at
that's where we get taxed.
17.5%.
And that's when we get taxed. So the decision around it's really.
So, well, it's one of the decisions that we have as a trust.
Yes.
As in terms of the first distribution, what of that do we need, and how shall we instruct Tātou in terms of that. First distribution by the end of this month, so 3 months up after the amendment date. Next distribution is November this year, so we have to make another decision. Same amount, 352,000, and then the next one is in 2020 after 1st of November. And at the end of that 3-year period, if we didn't spend any of it, we would have $1,057,000 in our account. The trustee at Tātou level says there will be no other distributions in the first 3 years other than these. In the fourth and subsequent years moving through, then it's based on the revenue from investment that Tātou derives from its commercial arm on a 60-40 split. 60% gets reinvested, and then the 40% less operating expenses is then dispensed across the Kāhui. Same principle if they want it.
That split is totally dependent on Tātou, isn't it? They don't have to, I think it reads that they don't have to do that split. It's 60-40 or whatever they decide to determine.
It's 60-40, 60 reinvested, 40% less operating for distribution across Kāhui. I've talked about that. That process there has been the commercial arm, the directors, the 5 directors, that's been run by Tātou.
Can you give some clarity around the difference to that, please? Because I think that's where some of the confusion is going in regards to the corporate and the commercial, and what the understanding between the Kāhui, corporate and commercial. If you can do a clarity on that space, that'll be good, because I think there is some confusion around Kāhui is the ones that make the corporate makes the ones decisions for the commercial, which is not. And I think we just want clarity around that on the process, please. So if it's
These two here, the corporate trustee and Tātou Waiaro Trust, for all intents and purposes, are one and the same. The corporate trustee is there to enable some indemnity over the 7 trustees who are acting as corporate trustees. Some of this is still need to be done, but for tax efficiency, it makes sense to create a charitable arm which can also make distributions under charitable parameters. Direct out to that could be for education, for all sorts of things. Back out to Marae or back through the Kāhui. So I think like many other PSGEs, they have a governance area, and then they create an area that is their role is to grow the asset through investments, through wise investment. So the relationship between this entity and your governance here is usually done through what they call a SIPO, or a Statement of Investment Policy and Objectives. So the discussion here, which is about strategic planning, 5-year business plan, saying what our vision is, what our values are, what our objectives are, a part of that gets translated down into here in terms of a Statement of Investment Policy and Objectives, and that's what our commercial arm are guided by.
So can I just say there, so that's my point there. The corporate, what governs the corporate in a set of order that reflects our values of beneficiaries should be governed right there, the corporate trustee and the commercial arm there. So I would like to, see, and surely it's understanding our people, what's going on here to protect us, but also that your priorities on the commercial arm is going to benefit poverty, the poor. Now in 2026, where most majority of our people are Māori in the population, and it affects the uneducated unemployment, is going to be risen by 46%. So gathering the value of research, that's the importance for us and our people, just on, and let alone poverty. And we know the housing's an issue, so I would like to see that governing body of governance based on the values of this.
So there's 3 threads that would enable that. And the 3...
So if we can reflect that protections that we need to have, that's a part of the responsibility.
So part of that is still in process, but the point is well made. So I guess there's 3 threads through which those values and the directive in terms of whether it's around unemployment, whether it's about poverty, that can come not so much from this level. This arm here is to grow money, grow our asset, and produce revenue that is put back here to be directed down there, either directly from Tātou Tāpua as a corporate trustee or through the Kāhui level, through here.
The Kāhui.
Another value part here is that alongside the SIPO, the Statement of Investment Policy and Objectives, there are also ethical things and value things that create the relationship here. Part of that might be an instruction from Tātou Tātou Te Wairu to the commercial arm directors saying that we do not want investments in tobacco, in
casinos.
Whatever, these are the value things. We say we don't want petroleum exploration.
Yeah.
And this is some of the instruction that goes on between here, that relationship.
And we can push that through
All
our
that
Kāhui.
kōrero comes from Kāhui level, right? Up there.
So we
all
can
that
push
stuff
that.
you're talking about is at Kāhui level. So
one of the things I'm important, because of the values I'm talking about, that reflects this economical drive, should be a reflection of how that money is spent. And on 1.4 on the constitutional objective powers of the trust, and it says in A, it says, and giving the effect to the purpose of the trustees may act. Now I'm concerned about that because may act is not specific to, but it's not specific to accountability for the Kāhui. And that it says it may act. There's a big difference between accountability, power will act, and may act, because there's instances that they may not. But let me remind you of
I think, Marlene, if you have the right people in place, they'll be able to go through all that stuff. I think you're getting nitty.
I don't agree with people acting. I agree that.
So were you part of this? Were you part of the Marlene?
So you understand what I'm saying. That's very important words, because constitution means that the action will come from Kāhui. Whether you put may or act, they're very important. It says it may act in the promotion of education, spiritual, economic, social and cultural advancement. But it's not specific to. And I just want to make that an amendment that we need to have the rights of the beneficiaries as accountable from Kāhui to the beneficiaries, to this constitution of our rights, and specific to the duties. Because this is where the governance of the Kāhui will ever come, and you're able to follow your governance of priorities and accountabilities under these priorities of deprivation to our beneficiaries.
Thank you, Marlene. Thank you.
Very important.
I think too, just coming as in my hat off from the secretary, but as a Te Rauhina rep and who I've been representing for, that's that space that we have been able to have the ability to communicate from our level and our marae as well, and bringing that together here to have a conversation about what that is. Tika and puno is one of the key things that we need to do when we're at a marae acting, because definitely sitting alongside the whānau, they too, like yourself, Marlene, are saying, are you doing this and this and this? Come with me on my journey to make sure I'm doing this and this and this. Pull me out on my journey if I'm not. And that's what I think our whānau here around our Kāhui, which we've done for the last so long we've had this relationship, have been doing that. I know I've been on that side of the table a lot, questioning this table, who is myself too. And it's because ones like yourself bring that in, but it's about being informative too. So making sure that we're not just sitting across justifying ourselves. We want to also sit alongside to make sure that we are doing. But I just want to know where you're pulling that from, because
Okay, that's a ditty, look at it.
is that our Kāhui trustee?
No, it's a Tātou Tātou trustee.
Oh, Kāhui. So
Right.
two different trustees, eh?
Okay.
Tātou and ours, and I just want to make sure that when we're sitting in the,
Corporate
can you be
trustee
clear on which
system.
one you're
Yeah.
talking off, so I can make points,
For
and
the
so we
minutes.
can
For
sort of
the
go
minutes.
back.
Again, so many
Yeah.
grateful, but it should all be reflecting, our Kāhui should reflect Tātou Tātou in line with the people's values. I've been through the legislation, but let me find it here.
It is.
That's the Tātou.
We've done
It's
our
in here
best.
somewhere.
We've done our best, Marlene, to do what we've done, what we've got in front of you today.
While Marlene's
So-
looking for that, can we?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Carry on.
This-
Carry on.
this here too.
Carry on.
Trustees.
And our local Kāhui.
We talked about that. So part of the discussion, we've got the next Tātou Tātou Hui is on the 16th of Feb, next weekend. So Hedger and I will be there. We'll be talking about these two. So some of the discussion now is, we've had, our 14 trustees have been, they're supposed to be there for governance. Governance is different in terms of management and operations. But that's how we've operated for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And now there comes a time where we're going to have to separate and become governors as opposed to the doers on the ground. But there's a discussion yet to be had next weekend, which is about if we initiate an selection appointment process, then we need to be able to direct and guide any employees that we have, in particular a chief executive or a general manager. So that's just a discussion that started back on the 19th, and it will continue on next weekend. One of the discussion points was about Kāhui elections, access to the registration database. So Tātou Tātou was required to have a database, but for our purpose now that Kāhui, 7 Kāhui are in operation, they need to run their own elections, therefore they need access to a reliable database. There's a bit of work that's going on at the moment to enable each of the Kāhui, including ourselves, to have access to our section of the Tātou Tātou database, where our members are registered. The person that's been nominated and put forward to Tātou Tātou to do that on our behalf is Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua, is Bob. Another discussion we need to have at Tātou Tātou level, but even for ourselves, is around a 5-year strategic plan. They have to do it, we need to do it in terms of bringing our collective interests together to say, which direction are we going in? What does it look like when we're going to be getting there? What are the steps that are required to enable that? Who's going to be doing what in that space? What's the cost associated with that? What's the time frames around that? And then all the communication that goes in behind that. So we've got a bit of mahi ahead of us. I talked about that in terms of the commercial arm. We might consider that as something we want to be doing. Won't be doing a lot of it on 350,000, but there's a discussion for us ahead as a Kāhui in terms of when we get to a point of investments, then how will we compose that, including the values that Marlene's been talking about in our next week. Any questions on that, Mark?
Okay, I've got it, thank you. I've got to go back to the rights so you can understand. So I hope people read
Yeah, which trust? Can you say what trustee you're reading from? Not constitution. So the Kāhui trustee.
Yeah, what page?
So we can refer to.
And number 17. We're looking at beneficial owners' rights. So I can see there's the rights for trust information that describes himself, and there's a whole statistics about inclusive of confidentiality and obtaining this. I can't obtain it, but I'm not interested in that. I'm talking about, I want to see the rights that I've just explained that gives mandate for my access to, that you're going to address. I've just got this is for future. My poverty, my housing, and that it meets the disparities of my whānau. Very important to have those ethical mandate rights under the treaty. And if I look under here, I want to see that. I've looked here for rights that gives me beneficiary access to how our kāhui needs to be formed around those priorities, because it gives a sure guidelines of accountabilities to duties, and it gives, like I said before, the trust and the mandate and the power that we trust the kāhui and the trusted electors. So, and I want to go forward back to page 16 on trustees powers, 12.1. Absolutely, that they think it fit on the last line as their own, it's absolute power. Well, what power does it give you in the mandate to restriction of responsibilities? I want to see a clear outline. That's something that needs to be amendment. What are the priorities that I've just outlined? We want to see that. So I'm just putting it out there just to help describe this. And it's all about collaboration. Now, if you look under 11.4, trustee standard of care, right, that's the trustee standard of care, but what about the care for me? You and I, beneficiaries. We want to see what is your care for the beneficiary.
Marlene, can I refer you to Schedule 3 of the same trustee?
Yes, well, let's look at that.
Schedule 3 is what we're
Yeah,
So read that, and then you might have a better understanding of what that means.
Because it has to be very specific. Now, if I have to let you know, majority of people have asked me, what does this mean? We're talking about the Disability Act. They have the right to understand what you're trying to understand. This Constitution, which is quite, for the lay person here being like, it's a bit mixed. And we just need to have some clarity so they have that trust.
And I think an important step moving forward, where we can actually really dive deep into that discussion, is we've got our strategic planning session coming.
So it'd be lovely to see you there,
Yeah, I would like to be.
So that's
part of
next Sunday?
Yeah.
17th.
Because it's just to guideline people that we know that we can have this partnership of trust and support.
Because I think these things, you're quite right, and these two things right alongside one another. So one is we have a trustee which guides and provides instruction about the way that you act. What you actually act on is very much about our strategic plan, our vision, our aspirations, our values, our conduct, but more particularly the things that we want to see materialised in that process. So that's
That's a
next
clear
Sunday.
way of, that is next Sunday, and so it's a clear way of defining exactly the trustees. This trustee is so the trustee is aware of what they can act. We tell them, we include them in regards to what we want them to act on.
And also adding to that, turning up to Kāhui meetings as well, all of them.
Is that open to certain people? Can
What's that?
we, did you say
Strip
yes?
No, it's
The
open
strip
to
plan
the
is open.
It's open to our Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua, because we need the people, we need our whānau there, because we need to start talking about a strip plan.
Yes, we need to.
And so bringing it from a marae aspect, people marae, bring them in, and then we all collectively look together and write it down.
That's great.
Cafe EIT next Sunday, 9 o'clock.
But that'll be put out. We're
We're gonna put that in the Wild Star,
in the Facebook pages
in the
as well.
Facebook pages.
Says January, 20th of January.
No, that's
No,
when,
no,
that's when that, we did have that
no,
meeting,
that's-
that was
this
the
is-
meeting.
We've had
What date
that,
is that one? The 17th.
17th of
And
February.
where's that?
Next week.
AOT,
EIT.
Yeah,
In Wairau.
and what time?
9 a.m.
9.
9.
It's an
It'll be on the
all-day
Facebook
workshop.
pages and.
So,
Can I just
sorry.
ask you one thing? I don't know whether I'm in the right place to ask it, it might be somewhere else, it might even be at that strategic plan thingy. Someone brought up at a meeting I was at recently about being able to register in different kāhui.
Yep, we're talking about that coming up.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's coming,
it's
just
coming.
for you.
Right,
Just for you.
right place.
So I just want to make it clear too for whanaunga over here that strip plan hui is for all marae, people that are whakapapa to the marae, the hapu, whānau hapu
Is this
marae.
for this kāhui or for everybody?
No, just
Oh,
for
our
our
kāhui,
kāhui.
I'm just talking about our
So it's
kāhui.
our
I don't know how-
5-year stretch plan.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Okay.
Not,
But
yeah.
if you whakapapa to another kāhui and you want to contribute to their
Keep their
aspirations, me haere.
Yeah.
No, but I'm talking about registration.
Yes, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get
to that.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to recap, so committee tautoko, I should explain what that is.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, committee
We're nearly at the
tautoko.
end.
So in the transition from Te Tiro Whakaemi back in November 2016, what sat with our kāhui at that time, with Uncle Blighty, Liz, Pita, was they created a little forum or committee of which they could support one another, they could do mahi collaboratively, and that got us ultimately towards the contributed to the deed of settlement during Te Tiro Whakaemi. One of the motions that Heta and I sort of put forward when we became initial trustees in late 2016 was, can we please have that same concept and approach in terms of a committee tautoko that holds us to account, that helps and supports us, that does a lot of the administrative work that is driven off tātou tātou. So that's the committee tautoko. And it's been absolutely, wouldn't have got there without it.
Yeah, and we've been open about that right from the beginning. So, you know, for whānau that are just coming into the mix now, you know,
No mai, haere mai.
yeah, we've been open about
So
it.
all of our
Transparent.
kāhui, our cluster hui from back in 2016 has been driven and administrated by our committee tautoko, Karakia. He aroha noi.
Karakia oti.
Meeting Sunday the 20th of January was when our committee came together for our cluster. Our discussions of the day, we talked about access to the Kāhui membership on the Tātou database. We'll talk a bit more about that. Qualifying Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua for its first distribution. There are certain things we had to meet as decreed by Tātou. They said we will want a copy of your signed trust deed that enables you as a legal entity. We want your bank account details. What was the other thing?
Copy of our minutes.
And a copy of our minutes within which our trust deed was ratified.
Yeah.
The only thing that we don't have is our bank account. We already had an old one, but we can't use that one going forward. We have to create a brand new one.
And that's because of the name change of our trusts. We're no longer Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua, we Te Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua, so the banks, we need to change that.
And it was just tidier. It was just tidier too to set up a new bank account as opposed to using our old one and keeping our old funds separate to this new trust. Because our old trust, Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Rōpū, wasn't a legal entity, but this one is. So yeah.
So we're just
Want
going
to
with the
keep it
legal
clean.
bounds.
Because something that we'll need moving forward, which
That close to
falls off
still.
the back of that, is having audited accounts.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
At the
That was the
AGM.
other one.
So there was that. This
So
is...
just ask a question, tō tātou, whānau ko Joe Robiha.
Kia ora, Joe.
I've been here before my whakamis. My grandfather, my father's Paul Robiha, from Kihitu and Whakakī. My grandfather's Simeon Robiha from here, also known as Simeon Robiha, and my grandmother's Hene Kaitangi Taitu from Kihitu.
Cool.
That's on my dad's side, and that's on here. And my mum was from Mahara, Waibao, and my grandmother was Hene Penakara from Mahara, and my grandfather's Project Timika Wai from Pūtahi, Whakakī-Nui-A-Rua.
Tēnā koe.
Kia ora, Joan.
Just wanted to know, is this committee the beneficial entity?
For
No, beneficial entity at the moment is these two fellas.
Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua.
So at the moment, under the Kāhui trust deed, Heta and I hold your trusteeship.
So it's yet to be, the entity is yet to be ratified?
no, it's
so,
been
Okay.
so the trust deed has been ratified, and
that's available to be seen.
Yeah.
But within that, it says that for the period before the new elected trustees are put in place, then initial trustees will act as your trustees and we hold your benefit on your behalf. That's myself and Hita.
Yeah.
I understand, but if refers to beneficial entity, I'm just not sure, in the Tata Tata D refers to the beneficial entity, and I'm just trying to figure out who's who. So for now, we're going to be getting us there.
So in the Tato Tato deed, the beneficial entity relates to Te Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Trust. That's the entity. It's a legal being now.
So who are they? Are they you? Or they
Those are the
No,
trustees
those
of the
For
trust.
now.
Just us two.
For now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Initial period
Yeah, we've
to
got-
the elections.
We've got elections coming up before the end of March.
Yeah.
So
And
if
then there'll be
elections
4
take
members of the
place, that entity will then be.
Well, once they are announced at the once they're announced, the result of the elections, then Hita and I cease to exist, and there will be new trustees in place.
Across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the
Yeah,
next
across
next
the board.
slide.
So this committee is just
Pardon?
Can you
Yeah, you
yes.
can. It's
Yeah.
within the trust.
Yeah. Was that clear? Were you okay?
I can see where you're coming from, but I've just got a few questions for another day.
No, go.
Diagram is pretty clear.
Well, the reason why I'm asking is that it talks about.
This is good. The questions that you ask actually are
Because
informative
it
for
means
us.
who you get to talk to, who's
That's right.
actually legally required to carry out the responsibilities. Do I go to you or do I go to
Those
you?
trusts.
No.
Now I understand you're the initial trustee.
Yes.
From, and then there was this Kāhui, and that you're the, for now you're the committee total to get us there.
Yeah.
And that the trustee has been, Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua, has been ratified
Yes.
or executed.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering, when does the Kāhui entity, has the Kāhui entity ratified but waiting for people to sit in it?
So Te Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Trust at the moment sits with just Hita and I. Once the new elected trustees are brought in, there'll be 4. There'll be 1 for each of our marae, and then there'll be the Tato Tato one. So there's 4 elections coming up in that regard.
Yeah.
And once those are complete, then our beneficial entity will be Te Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Trust,
And we're gonna talk to
represented
that.
by 3 reps.
Yeah,
and
that's
one
the next
And those
slide.
4 people become
go
the
motor.
entity.
That's the next slide coming. Next slide's coming.
Okay, I'll wait for that.
Yeah.
And then maybe have more questions.
The entity will always remain as Te Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Trust. Your trustees are...
Represented by the trustees.
Well, your
Initial
trustees are there to enact the trustee. We've got a program of work that we need to talk about, and next weekend's going to be a great time to start that. It's sort of like, what are we going to do between now and the end of 30 June, the fiscal year? And actually, what are we going to do beyond that from 1 July onwards?
Yeah.
It's exciting. And, those are those 2 things there. Up to 30 June, what should we do? That's really about focusing on what is the bare essential things we need to be operational. This one here is starting to get a cast of view across the next 12 months. Hey, what does if we were going to Auckland, and we know that our destination is we're going to go back to Taupo, and then we're going to head up that way. So this one here is saying, we're going to go to Auckland, but we just want to hit Taupo first. This is a milestone point along the journey. Our vision ultimately is to get to Tāmaki Makaurau, to Auckland. And what we do is we track we say we're going to go to Taupo. Once we see Taupo site, we're on track. Next one is we're going up to the next city, we're on track. So this one here is about what does our pathway ahead look like? And what are the chunks of work? Who's going to do it?
Oh, that's exciting.
Can I just ask another question? Now I take it we're going to stay together as 3 marae in our Kāhui, which I think, going from your first one, our close connections, our long connections, will we move together as 3 marae? looking for, when you're looking at programming forward, can we put that's what we do. How will we decide on that shared money? You might want to talk about this later anyway. The needs of Kihi 2 might be different to Iwiti or to us.
Definitely.
Deciding on, Kihi 2 might have a huge project, and will we all just tautoko and that amount of our year's spending, go over there to support them on the big thing, rather than just do little programs all the time. Is there room for us to talk with each other's big projects?
I think those are the next steps for us. The next steps is all part of the strategic planning. And then one of the discussions might be, how do we support one another in this journey, but allow each to have its own independence and identity? Whether it's about physical things like a marae and its development, whether it's about education support, all of those things are part of our discussion coming up. It's exciting. And you need to be very clear about all of that in terms of what do we want to focus on, where are we going, because your trustees are the ones that are going to help to enable that. It's so pleasing that Hetra and I won't have to do that. It'll be our new trustees. Kāhui.
I just want to add to that, in regards to Te Rāhina, we've now put that in one of our placements on our board, that there's always going to be a chair solely to represent us at the cluster table. And so in saying that, that's part and parcel of now what our portfolios are going to be like. There should be always, it's a recognised mahi that we have to do and keep that conversation going. But sharing our aspirations is probably the key start. And then marrying up what is going to be yours, because we are going to have some synergy there, and then we're not. And but probably more so around a financial space, it's probably more so what's best beneficial for all. Not, we may have a kaupapa going on at our place that may cost thousands of dollars, but it's not like we want the money at our place, but how can we collectively help in all space? So I'm looking really excited in regards to how we're going to work collectively, more efficiency for all three marae. That's pretty much, and still keep some of our money there to grow.
So something that might roll off later, just as a bit of an example, just to get us in that digestive space, is we don't necessarily just have to look at the monies that we have in our kitty. We might decide to invite the young lad Apirana from DIA to come in here and talk about oranga marae. And sort of say, okay, well, we as a Kāhui collectively are supporting one another in terms of accessing oranga marae, which funds 100% if you're successful. Iwiti might say, well, we're going to do it this year, and will you tautoko us on that? Oh, it's exciting. Who's going to talk to this?
Give someone a check. Come on, mate. Someone else to talk.
Yeah. You all right?
I'll start.
You're all right.
So,
Make it work.
this here, I cannot overemphasize this point, is that everyone needs to go into the trust board, trust board, te honongo ngāua. You need to go in there and you need to check your registration.
No, it is the Wairo Waikato Moana Māori Trust
Wairo
Board.
Waikato Moana Māori Trust Board, 34 Marine.
Great.
Please go in there and check your registration.
So we're going to start having marae registers now, are we?
No.
We have access to the Tātou.
Yeah.
So if we just keep it all in there,
Yeah.
and Tātou can pay for it.
Yes, not Kāhui.
Yeah.
But-
Tātou will always be the owners of the register, because that's who the agreement's with.
But can you please, and can you spread the word to all of your whānau and get them to go in and say, I want to update my registration on the Tātou database. I know you might have already registered, but go in there, and here's the reason why. One is that during the last 2 or 3 years, only the primary Kāhui has been captured in the database.
The other part is some of us, when we filled out our forms, and I'm guilty of that, is that I didn't put down all of the marae that I affiliate to, such as Iwitea, such as Kehitu, Te Rauhina. And so here's an opportunity. If you want to vote in the elections for those areas, then you need to be registered. You need to have that affiliation in there. It needs to be in the database.
So if one...
Kāhui,
Yep.
and will it be of any benefit to any of the three maraes if, as a Kāhui, we are registered to the three marae? One day will there be a vote that says only that we're doing this, we're voting on behalf of Ngā Motu. So because we're all in the same Kāhui and we're registered to those three marae, I'm not to.
Yeah.
Does that mean we can vote for them?
I think that's where it comes for each trustee. As we're going down to that, each trustee for each marae for the board, that's where you have to define, is that in your registration?
So in our Kāhui trustee, where it talks about the marae trustee, in there it says that you must affiliate to the hapu of that marae. And so if at the moment the registration form that you filled out for Tāto's database doesn't have that affiliation, it's your personal choice, but doesn't have that affiliation in there, then it means that you won't be able to participate in those marae elections. So
Sorry, that's not true.
But only in the marae election.
You can participate in a special
That's
vote.
right.
special votes.
Yeah.
That's in this section.
What was that, sorry?
So it doesn't mean to say you can't vote if you're not registered. It just means that you need to register on the day and then you'll cast a special vote.
But we're encouraging people to register before that
to say
day.
the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what was your question? Can I make a
Well, I was
question?
kind of think it was answered in a way. I was just thinking that because we're in the one cluster, does
Yeah.
that mean our affiliation is to three marae?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's whatever you
No.
fill them out to be on the
Good though.
on the
So
application.
I'll just
form.
use an example so everyone can understand. If Joan registered for Whakakī as her primary Kāhui, marae.
I'll tell you what, it's just for now.
No, I'm just using it as an example. But she affiliates to Kihi2, she needs to go and register for under Kihi2 marae as well. So she can vote there. And
But-
same if you come to Iwitea.
The way you do that is on that same registration
Yes,
form
you
by,
do it on the
by
same
saying
registration
affiliate.
form. Yeah.
Which is this one. This one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the registration form gets you to put in however number of.
So everyone would have
Kāhui or
registered.
marae that you want to.
Everyone would have registered just and put primary Kāhui.
This is a real live example. You can also go to other Kāhui, can't you?
Yes.
Yes. So that's the Kāhui. So in regards to ours, Whakaki or Te Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua Trust. So I affiliate to Iwitea, Te Rauhina. My names are down as both. So that means I can go to both huis and vote. That's just inside our Kāhui Trust. Kāhui. I also whakapapa to the whole 7 Kāhui. So I'll put them down. So I can go in each 7 and actually vote whether it's they do their process like ours, but I can vote for our corporate in each 7.
Kāhui.
You know, so
That
that's
was my question.
Yeah.
so I can do that because I put that out in my registration form. Before it was my primary, but I make sure to put all the rest. So to me, that made me the affiliation because, I mean, before that, my whakapapa reps tell me that I can.
So
the
when you,
paper shouldn't tell
when
me
you
I
fill
can't.
it out, you tick all the Kāhui that you whakapapa to. That's the easiest thing to do.
So that changed, because prior to the 30th of November last year, you could only vote with one of your primary. That was Tātou level. From the 30th of November, that brought Kāhui in to become legal entities.
Yeah.
And so there needed to be a change to enable Kāhui-related elections. So Bob's quite right, and that is if you whakapapa to an area but you're not necessarily affiliated at this point, then you can go to the election and you can cast a special vote. The special vote would still need to be validated. The reason why I say that and why we're encouraging you to go now and not at the election is because special votes means that there will be no election result on the day.
Yes.
It'll be delayed until all special votes have been counted and validated. So we're saying, go now. voting age is 18.
This is the Marae elections.
Yep.
That's the Marae elections, to be clear.
Yeah.
Marae elections is 18.
Yeah, and same with the Tātou representative one. Voting age is 18, but your nominee has to be 20.
Oh,
And there's a few other criteria as well. Can't be bankrupt and a few other things. And for our Marae elections, the nominations are from the floor at the election hui. It can also happen at the SGM for the Tātou election, but nominations can be received in advance of the SGM as well. And candidates, we would encourage this, and that is all of those who are nominees who put themselves up to candidates to represent us, whatever, whether it's at Marae level or at Tātou level, we would expect them to be able to stand and to attest in terms of what do they see, how will they represent, how will they conduct, to commit themselves to the hui, to the people. So
That's a fair call, don't you all think?
And it's an opportunity.
Yeah. And
So you want,
Kānui ki te kānui, We want them standing in front of us to say why they want to be here, why they want to represent us, So I think that's fair.
And at each of our elections, it will be done by secret ballot voting run by an independent returning officer. So returning officer can actually run that process for the Marae elections. It's just a slightly bigger process for the SGM because it's the receipt of nominations and all that is done in advance. And so your committee tautoko here, part of the discussions that we're having the next 3 days, will be about finding an appropriate returning officer that is competent about the process, is independent and can run that for us across all 4 elections. I think that's us,
Any questions?
so just a date.
Questions?
Question just for the last one. So the process itself that you've got up there, the election process, that's here in the new, the updated Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua, that's in there now?
Trust.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome, cool, thank you. I just can't find it. I can see the page, it's on 23.
Yeah.
I just don't see.
Schedule 1 is for the Kāhui representative.
Yeah.
Schedule 2 is for the Tātou representative.
Yeah.
Okay, just the process itself, that A, that can be elected from the floor, B, that there's going to be a returning officer, and is that
It's all in there.
I'm blind.
Yeah, so when we were discussing the trustee and around elections, this was a point of discussion, just in terms of the nomination, especially at the Marae level, because we don't run our Marae elections that way of having postal nominations. So the majority of the majority decided that we shouldn't do postal nominations for our Marae elections, but we're doing them for Tātou.
Reason being, too,
So
I
just
just
the
want to
election
mention that is that we do ours organic process in our marae. I say that for Turahina. Means that a lot of our things get moved off the table there and then and goes through a minute process. So the informing through our Facebook page, how we've normally connected with our people, have come through, but a lot of their energy and a lot of their responses come through that they're happy with the decisions that are made because of the ahika at home. Now, if they were coming along, they may not be able to come to the hui to be face-to-face a lot, and that was a lot of reasons why a lot of them couldn't attend. So they registered, they support from wherever they are, but we also bring whatever they're saying to our table to reflect us really here. So that was because it was a long discussion that we had around the trustee process. Should the marae, one, be carrying a ballot postal? If so, that's financially on the marae to cover. And that could be thousands of dollars that we don't have. That's for keeping our fires burning, that piece here. So that's why organically I pushed that it wouldn't be a ballot process from our marae anyway.
So an example of that is that for the ones that were run at Tātou level, the cost for each one of those across 7,000 is in excess of 40,000. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Our trust election hui, iwi te marae, and this will come out in adverts, will be held on Saturday, 30th of March, starting at 9 a.m. Whakaki Marae, same day, 30th of March, but at 1 p.m. Te Rauhina Marae, the next day, on Sunday the 31st of March, at 10 a.m. And our SGM, our special general meeting, to elect our Tātou representative, and if we don't have special votes, to announce our Marae trustees, will be held on Sunday the 31st of March, after the Te Rauhina Marae election, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at Te Rauhina. And subject to special votes at the Marae level, then we hope to be in a position to announce the first elected trustees for each of our marae, and also the election of the first Tātou representative under Schedule 2. And that's also subject to special votes.
And when will we vote for that one, that last one?
This one, well, this election is on the
Sunday.
31st, between 1 and 3.
So there's not going to be a postal vote.
No postal vote.
No.
So it's going to have to be there on
Yes.
the day. So
Yes.
it's not
At Te Rauhina.
It's in the deeds.
Yeah. So it's an SGM under the trustee. Then, well, Heta and I, but our committee here is required to put an SGM notice in the paper twice, and any other media that we choose to use 30 working days in advance of the end of March. The end of March is non-negotiable because we're required to have run this process under the Tātou trustee within 4 months of the amendment date. That's the end
On
of
the
March.
30th of 1 month, wasn't it?
30th of
So
November.
It's not going to be going to the 30th of that on March?
30th of November, 4 months after that, within that time frame.
That's the furthest that we can push it out to.
Yeah.
And we also made a
Push it out
decision
one way
that,
too much?
yeah, we have, but we'll take the hit.
We
That's
pushed it
on the
out
Sunday
one way too
31st,
much.
so it's over that 4 month period. It's 1 day over, but
How legal is that going to be? It's a day over, it's not legal. If it's 4 months, within 4 months, we're 1 day late.
yeah, I don't think it's a legal thing. I just think they haven't met what the obligations of their
I think it
trustees
says 4 months.
It does.
It's the end
And
of the
the-
month.
are. November.
The Kāhui Trust as well.
It's the last day of the month. It ends at midnight. Then it becomes the 1st of April.
James got us.
Yeah,
So
so,
just so with that, the Tātou, so the people who want to elect them have to be at the marae to make post their election.
To vote.
To vote.
So no postal voting for the first Tātou representative for Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua.
no,
No
there's
postal
no
vote.
postal votes on it.
That's a bit
Or
different to
online.
other Kāhui. A wee bit different.
Okay. Can I just get the dates that you had before? I didn't write them down.
Oh, sorry. Those,
That one. Yes, thank you.
So all this was
So, yeah.
agreed in our workshops that we had for the trustees, and over a period of time, we agreed to go with that voting process.
We just saw a live streamed workshop we had at Te Rauhina. So in the trustee document it said they could show elected them on a day for their Tātou. But in the live stream it said it was going to be changed to a postal vote.
No, it was changed from a postal vote to
Okay.
I think the other one that we haven't talked about up here, which is important to raise here, is around our communications going forward. So I think the point was well made that there are many who might not of their own accord have followed the hui, our Kāhui hui, over the last 2 years. And so hence the importance of having this hui here today. I think the question therefore arises about communications moving forward looks like what? And so one of the mahi of this committee here is we're looking at establishing a website, and I'll pass to Bob because he can explain it better than I can.
Yeah, so the website, so I've been speaking with a collective in town in Wairoa who have been providing assistance to our Kāhui. So they definitely have skills around creating a whole lot of technology, and I engaged them on a couple of things. One was to create just a content website for our Kāhui, and I'm also discussing with them building a more functional site for our marae. So I've yet to receive any information, some sizings back from the guys, but I am expecting that next week. For us to get our Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua website up and running should be fairly quick. The marae one will take a bit longer.
I just want to add to that about the importance of communications, right? Because I think the disappointing point for me personally was that I've become aware that there is another website or Facebook page that has been set up, and it's been called Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua. And I think the part that disappoints me is that Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua has been something that has belonged to us for mairano, but more recently it's enabled us to be able to progress on this journey. I'm disappointed at the gumption that someone of ourselves would just set it up and call it Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua without any clarity about whether it's mandated or not, what its connections are to here. This is the mandated group under our trust deed in terms of Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua. There has been no discussion about the utilisation of a name, nor the confusion that it causes to our people going ahead. So that's my disappointment that that has not happened.
I think, to be fair to the ones that set it up, is that there wasn't one before. I think that's, but I do agree it's caused much confusion. But anyway, it's there, and I think what can be done now is that we set up one that is legally set up by Te Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua. I mean, I think in all fairness to it being set up, it was just, and it has actually put up a lot of documents, a lot of feedback, it's got a lot of discussion going, which we never had before. I think, to be fair, that came up. But it also allows for a lot of confusion, I think. And especially, and I've said this before, that Heta's put up all our meetings on Whakaki Marae page, which if we're interested, we could have gone along and got the information. We've had a lot of discussions at the different maraes, but you know, there's a lot of people who weren't privy to those meetings for whatever reason. But I think all of those videos, all of the papers that have been put up, I've found them interesting. I haven't found some of the discussion interesting, but anyway, I put the 2 cents worth in anyway. And I think, well, now we're here, that we can just ask that it be removed. And if it is removed, then you should put one up.
Yep. Yes, I think we have to look at the need. And if I think we prioritise rather than who, but what is wanted. And I think that's an issue, so thank you.
I just want to, so coming from the discussion was, we had looked at it, but we also manage a marae one. So it was about trying to not because each marae comes from, and so it was the avenue for our trustees to go through and put it through each marae. And it being so is that any conversations that generate from the marae, they can come back to Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua without even confusion coming through. However, we're going to a new process space, and that may be a conversation around how we move into that space, and then how we leave it off the marae space.
Yes.
But we have been on the journey of marae being the discussion point, and then coming back as a collective. If we had put in another Facebook page, it would have been just doubling up on the information, doubling up, and so it's quite hard to trace through a communication coming off a feed that's just going through fast. There's no guts around that, you know, no puku. And so for me, it wasn't and also it wasn't a way around managing what should go out and what shouldn't in regards to the communication coming off the floor.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of, so I was invited, and I was hesitant at first because of that. I didn't want it to make that, yes, I agreed to this page, because I didn't. But what I did agree to was the conversation to some point. And that's why I needed to inject, and that's why I needed to introduce myself and say what my role is and how I come to be a part of the Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua journey. And more so to represent, to make sure that our whānau are getting the information correctly.
The correct information.
And that was the key part, hence why I didn't add any tauhina whānau on there, and if they were very silent. Because if they're not hearing it straight from kānui ki te kānui, or from our leadership, which is hita, then we shouldn't be actually acknowledging anything until it comes to this space. So that was why we took that journey, and I think that's the same as Whakaki and Iwitia, where we wanted to leave the communications. Coming next weekend with the strap, we should communicate inside of that. So thank you, Petty, for bringing that up.
I just want to add to that too. Well, me personally, why I didn't go onto that page was because it's not Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua committee. You know, it was just, that's why I didn't get onto that page. You know, I stayed away from it. Just my personal thing.
And there was
I'm
only
here on
two of
behalf
us.
of everyone.
There was only two of us invited, which is myself and Hita off the table, which is, that caused conflict just within us.
Sorry, I was
Yes,
saying,
sorry.
I did receive a couple of
Oh, you did?
invites, but, you know, I'm just not, I've got other things to do.
Well, I think it's going to be great when you get that website.
Yes.
I think that's much better than Facebook.
Yeah, definitely.
A website is just going to be much
But yeah,
more
we need a
visual.
source of reliable information
And
that
we're working
everybody
on
can
that
go to.
now.
Yeah.
People can request that you put things on.
Yeah, and we're very happy to share, you know, what
I
we've
think
put
it's going to be
together.
good having that.
Yeah.
Just to support that Facebook page, I mean, it was because there wasn't enough.
Yeah, communication.
available.
Yeah.
So I was part of that discussion, because we just didn't have the direct access to the people who were doing this. I knew that you two were initial trustees, but I didn't know how to get to you apart from a phone call. And so that was really the need. So please don't take it too personally. Because what it did do is that you are here now this way.
No, I didn't take it personally. I was disappointed in the way that it evolved, because it just grabbed hold of Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua and used that name.
Yeah, well, we've got some answers now, come up with a website and they're here now, and so they answered some of the questions. At the time, some people felt that they weren't giving enough this type of discussion to clarify some of the issues. So that did bring that out.
So I'll just swallow that, Madam Chair, and I think the fact that we're getting a website and our communications up and running is the right point to end on.
Yes.
And that's the end of me and Heta's trustee report.
Kāhui. Thank you. Awesome.
See you at the end of March.
Or next Sunday.
Or
next Sunday.
So the next one on our agenda is the new trustee elections. I won't be answering that. Done there.
We've done that,
Yep.
yeah.
Trust set up. Well, that's all part of the
Just
strat planning.
run down what to expect so that we can get to the strap thing, and you know what kind of things we might discuss, so that we
Yeah, so we can-
right there, right, think of things during the week.
Yeah, so I mean, there's those three slides, very high level, which try to bring together what we are as three marae, three communities, and as a takiwa. So yeah, I'm happy to put those out somewhere, so that you know you can think along those lines of what within all these things that we want to look at.
Just here, you know,
We should be
what
doing.
do we think, what do we as a committee like hoping
What
for?
feedback would you expect us to think
Are we
about
going
Whakakī?
to
got common-
housing?
common-
Are we going to look at, you know?
Yeah.
So this is, you know, those are the things we want in common.
What Facebook page can I go to see all this?
Well, you can't.
Facebook page.
I mean, what website can I go to?
Can we add that onto the Marae pages?
Yep.
Yep.
For those of us who can't get on the Marae page and haven't been accepted, how
Oh.
does that work?
Contact your
Contact your
Marae
Marae
admin pages, admin person.
Administrator?
Who the administrator on the
For-
page.
for-
How do you get onto it? Yeah, I haven't
For
been
who? For which
which
marae?
marae?
Which marae?
Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua, Whakakī, it took me around the back door to get accepted on it. I sat on trying to get accepted on it for about 3 months.
On the Whakakī one, Marae,
Whakakī one.
Whakakī Marae
Are
page.
you in today?
Whakakī Marae. No, I'm not. I haven't been accepted.
Oh.
So with
it's
these-
just that, and see, there the glitches is that where do we get access to this information? Can I get this emailed to me?
Email. So if you got them there,
Yes.
then and please, that the attendance sheets are always used. So if you got them there, you can note. Can I please have the minutes or the paper or anything that's come through to email me through?
Fantastic.
So if you note that on our things, then we can be able to send them out
Awesome.
And also this hui video recording.
and share them amongst your networks too. Share it amongst your networks too, please.
Oh, is this?
Yeah.
Yes, that goes up on.
And don't forget we're now chair.
Yeah, we chair.
That's talking
Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua.
about Strictly
Yes.
Yeah.
GB.
So if you look at the aspirations, those 3 tiers, they actually inside of that, what does the makeup of that look like?
But we'll push that to the strict planning hearing. I'm just mindful of our time. Is there any general business out there that we want to go into? Otherwise, we can wrap up and go to our strict plan hearing. But so, Bob, you're going to put something out next week? Or to we?
I'll give it to the secretary.
Sorry.
Cool, for the whānau who's here. And
Yeah, I
needs to
mean,
be distributed.
there's no reason why we shouldn't just be sharing the whole presentation.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
That's
So I'll
fine.
send it on
I'll
out.
send that to you. Yeah.
Can you send that to me too?
Yeah.
Kia ora.
Thank you.
So any more general business? Is there any general business? Sorry, we're in GB now. Going. Okay, we'll close our hui, eh? Thank you.
You mightn't have heard the kōrero up here, but the presentation from today will be sent through to Naomi and it'll come up on the pages.
Email addresses.
And I think at some point in the future, the video recording that's been happening today, that will be posted up there as well.
Yeah. We do acknowledge that it's very difficult for people to get to these meetings, hey? So that's the reason why we do have spent quite a bit of money on getting this stuff video recorded and put it on our Facebook pages so our members can see what the discussion has been.
It'd be good to get a feedback too around that kind of stuff too, around doing this. Because we don't have internet access at all our maraes, hence why we haven't gone live. And with live, it's really hard to capture the key points. Hence why Bob has gone along and created all of these video clips with Zach and his Anaru.
So we're going to close our hui now, but I just want to touch on the point that you raised, which was about anticipating the strategic planning session. What should we go there with in our minds or in our hands? And I think part of, if we go back, and it's on the Tātou website in the archival section, in there it talks about the 2012 aspirations that were captured at each of the kāhui, Whakakī included. And in there we talked about our aspirations in terms of tātou. But actually they also, at that point in time, reflected what our dreams, our aspirations were. And it was very much around housing, employment, and there was a common thread across all of the kāhui. And I just wanted to say, if you look at that, if you're able to, but if you're not, just come with what do you think we need here across not only our Kāhui area, but actually across Te Wairua. Because we can't get there without actually involving others. We can't operate in a vacuum. We have to work with others to enable all of our whānau, because they're spread well beyond Te Wairua and well beyond our claimant area. So we need to be thinking in that space when we come to Sunday next week for our strat planning week.
So I'll just add to that, what I might do, because I've got that aspirations document from 2012, hard copy, so I'll flick Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua's aspirations that was done back then to Namu, and she can add it with,
And I'll add it with the stuff.
and it's
Send it
more
out.
in depth. So I don't think we'll be too far off on all the aspirations that we've done way back then. Kia ora.
Oia no tēnā tata. Tēnā tata ka rau te tuanui o tēnei whare manaki mai te kaupapa i karangahia i tarangi nei. Ko tāku e huri nei kia koe rā ati. Kei ko nā koe te timatanga o tēnei hui, kei ko nei rā i tōna whakaoti. Pēnā te tuku whakamoimiti kainua, ki o tātou nei kaihanga, kia manaki mai tō tātou nei hui, kia tau mai i ona manaki tanga kai Whakaki-Nui-A-Rua. Kia awhi mai ki tēnei kaupapa i tutuki hera i a tātou i te rangi. No reira, ko tā koe mihi ki tēnā o tātou. E kotahi nei, ke rungi a Whakaki, i witea ngā motu, e whai whakaro hei huarahi pai mā tata, me ngā uri whakaheke. Ki tāku i whakaro hia ki tēnā, hea hei tāku nei karu i aku nei whatu kia tiro hia hei oranga pai mā tata. Katahi ka whakaro hea i au i tōku mokopuna. Kotahi te mokopuna ki a, Lily, that's my mokopuna, Lily. And so part of me is, and this is my philosophy, is I need to see the world as it should be through the eyes of my moko. Because if I see it in that way, then it begs the question about what we're doing today and what we're having today and the decisions we make today, which are the small steps towards the world that she should be part of. And so, for me, ko tāku e nā whakarotanga. Kia tuku atu, kia wharakihia, kai runga tēnei otinga. No reira, tēnei te mihi, hei inui. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa. Te āta whai i o tātou eriki o i Ukraiti. Me te aroha o te atua. Me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu. Āke. Āmene, kia ora tata. Kia ora.